if we don't surrender to socialism. Joining me now, Saturday Agenda host Joe Pinion and former congressional candidate Joe Collins. Gentlemen, welcome. I'm just going to throw this out between all of us. If Rush Limbaugh came out on Monday and said that all the voices in liberal media, including minorities, should be deplatformed and censored, they would all turn around and call him a racist and call him a fascist. Now, why can white liberals do the same thing to us and they don't earn the title fascist or racist? Joe, you go first.
Thanks for having me, Owen. I think it's which Joe? Sorry, Joe Pinion or Joe Collins?
Yeah, I know. Sorry, Joe Pinion, go first.
Oh, goodness gracious. Yeah, it's a tale of two Joes. But look, let's be very clear. Democrats, they don't actually care about these minority groups. They care about the minorities that believe as they believe. It's why Joe Biden can say, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black, and not lose a single vote. Because at the end of the day, as much as they talk about quote unquote white privilege, those same white liberals believe they have the right to call me deficient in my blackness for believing in the vision of America that I think empowers my family and is best as determined by our founders. So that's just the reality that we currently face. The hypocrisy knows no bounds. And at the end of the day, what we as Americans need to be focused on is actually the substance of change and not the rhetoric of just emptiness that the left continues to proliferate and pretend that that's actually going to improve people's lives.
Yeah, Mr. Pinion, I'll just push back gently a little bit on that. I think that maybe Mr. Biden did lose some votes because President Trump over doubled his vote in the black community. That sent shudders up and down the spines of a lot of liberals out there. Mr. Collins, what do you make of this? Why do you think the liberal gets to attack we conservatives of color and they don't get branded as racists?
I think one of the biggest things about it is because, they play the victim card. They can say what they want to, but once you attack them and all of a sudden you're the bad guy when you're getting attacked. And also Republicans like to play nice. They play by the rules, and a lot of Democrats don't play by the rules, especially, white liberals. And I see the hypocrisy all the time. People call me self-hating and everything when, I actually love myself. I treat myself very well. I don't, vote for people with a history of racism. I don't go with a party who has a history of racism, starting the KKK. But, that's how cancel culture is. If you don't want to believe the same thing that white liberals believe, then somehow we need to be deplatformed.
It's one thing, Mr. Pinion, for, politicians to basically have these double standards because they do all the time. But when the press that's supposed to allegedly tell the truth, when they're out there advocating actually for the censorship of networks like this, and in effect, yours and my job, Mr. Pinion, again, I think it's fair for us to point out that these people are anti-First Amendment, these people are anti-free speech, and they're also attacking people of color. And if we're going to apply standards equally, and we're the only side that does, I think that maybe guys like you and I ought to start calling them what that is, judging them by their standard. So if they're going to call guys like Rush Limbaugh a racist, then they too, these white liberals calling for the censorship of networks like this, ought to be called racist as well.
Well, again, I think the fact that we face a conundrum right here where people on the left decided that they get to determine what black people are allowed to think, what Latinos are allowed to think, what all minority groups are allowed to think, that they have the right to seek us out on the internet, to call us all types of things besides a child of God. That is the type of actual cruelty, rhetoric that we're dealing with on the left. And personally, I think that if we just have to find a way to get more people to recognize that it's no longer this kind of do as I say, not as I do. If you're truly going to be following in the steps of Christ, if you're truly going to be talking about uniting America, it has to be more than words. It has to be matched with deeds, and those deeds cannot be the divisiveness that you seek to actually push out of society.
You make a very good point. And Mr. Collins, if you can weigh in on that too, because I don't know what your experience has been, but liberals, the liberals that call my show and then send me emails, they say some of the most vile, racist things. I can't even say them on television because it's so. Some of the most racist people I've ever bumped into are left-wing liberal extremists. How about you?
You know what? I'll have to say the same thing, but that's the benefit of having social media. That's the benefit of emails because it allows people to be really, really tough through a screen, through a screen. But we had a lot of issues with liberals out here in California as well. But one thing they learned really quick is I want all the smoke. And so it kind of dies down. I think Republicans need to be more aggressive, and we need to start ushering in a new brand of Republicans, especially the black men as Republicans.
No, I concur. Guys, what do you, just really quick, give me about a 60-second answer between the two of you. Mr. Pinion, we'll start with you. What do you think the solution is to make a more equitable playing field? We don't seem to get a lot of help from Republicans. Maybe the conservatives we get a lot of help from, but we individuals who are conservatives of color don't get a lot of help from the Republican Party per se. What do you think needs to happen so that we can start pushing back on this unfair narrative pushed by the left wing and their agents in the press?
Well, number one, I think we need to highlight the work that organizations are doing in communities of color that demonstrate the power of equal opportunity, things like charter schools, things like equal access to resources, the success that we've had there. And then number two, calling out the hypocrisy. This notion that, the only people that are painted with a broad brush are Republicans, the law enforcement, and black people. And so if, the left is consistently calling out the painting of the broad brush of black people, yet at the same time, when somebody in Central Park calls the police on a black man who's Harvard educated who wants to watch birds, somehow she does not speak for the entirety of the left. But apparently when people want to break glass at the Capitol, they speak for all Republicans and all conservatives. So let's just be very clear about what's happening here. We need to call out the hypocrisy time after time after time, because that is the only way that those individuals who do have clear eyes and a full heart for America and for their fellow man are going to be able to see the undeniable.
How eloquently put. You just put it there. And Mr. Collins, as Mr. Pinion just said, we've got to call out the hypocrisy. And I know you served in the United States military, and thank you for your service, because you fought for a little something we call the First Amendment. You fought for free speech. What is your reaction when you hear of these media companies working to censor conservative people of color?
I think that they need to be taken down. All of the media companies need to be taken down. And we got to get tough, and we got to give these people the same energy they give us.
Amen to that. Gentlemen, an enlightening discussion. I appreciate your time here on the